Before we start today, I need to preface a couple of things. A few things, actually. This is not in any way, shape, or form a news video, alright? This is not something I am presenting to you as this is a fact, hence why it's going on AZ Sports Guy. I am just a nobody YouTuber on AZ Sports Guy. JSN, I am attempting to be an actual guy, but AZ Sports Guys. Anyway, so what I'm about to talk about today is rumor. It is rumor, speculation, rumor, and speculation. Alright? None of this is confirmed. I just got a couple of rumors sent my way, and I thought they'd be entertaining to talk about. Alright? I'm going to be not mentioning names minus these 5. Alright? Technically speaking, JJ Watt, Shane Doan, Gary Bettman, Ryan Smith, and Matt Ishbia. Those are the only names I'm going to talk about, alright? But again, one last time before I begin speaking, this is all rumor, alright? When the team left, 99% of my sources went with them. So this is just us having a little bit of fun. So, as we all know, the team is sold to Ryan Smith. They're gone now. The front office and the records and whatnot were supposed to stay here until they were dissolved, like, within 3 months after the cancellation of the June 27th auction. So, I sent out the tweet a while ago, and it was essentially like, I had 2 quotes, and it was like, oh, that's a really weird or interesting thing to read after your 3rd showing of Deadpool and Wolverine. So, pretty much that date, if you can find the tweet, that is when I received a couple interesting texts that were talking about one rumor. And that rumor was that there are some internal discussions. It was heavily implied. Nothing to do with the NHL, nothing at all, just some internal discussions within the downtown arena. And the quotes I was given was, he's pissed there's no longer an NHL team, and quote, he tends to throw money at things that annoy him. Obviously, you know who I'm talking about, but just in case, I am just gonna not say the name at this exact second, okay? So, that was a little tidbit I got, and I had a couple things that confused me a little bit. It did confuse me a little bit why that individual would be upset. We've had some public comments from him, and the vibe I always got was just kind of, you know, it sucks what happened, I would like to be part of the solution. Genuine good guy Ishbia, but that was interesting to hear. Interesting because, again, nothing to do with the NHL. It just seems to be some internals, what it would look like type stuff. He's already publicly said he's on board to help out, wants to be, again, part of that solution. That's a paraphrase. That's kind of me describing what he said, not the actual quote, but that's the vibe we get. Okay. But one thing that I couldn't quite figure out how I felt about was that line about him being pissed. Where is the anger coming from? Like, that was one thing I was genuinely trying to figure out, because what reason would this individual have to be upset? Well, recently, the little birdie sent me some text messages, and this is the rumor going around. Officially, per PHNX, Matt Ishbia was out at about $600 million. That was his offer, his last-ditch effort, or not last effort, that's probably an incorrect way to characterize it. That was his offer to help keep the team here. That is what was said on PHNX. Just stick with that official number, alright? But I was told Ishbia did give an offer that was higher than that. The offer was supposedly $900 million, and he would build a new arena to house the Suns and Coyotes, leaving footprint for the Mercury and other events. And allegedly, supposedly, per the rumors, that offer was rejected for a few reasons, including not enough real estate or control over the real estate. That part was a little muddy, but it was just mentioned real estate, not enough parking, and this was mentioned, and there is a little bit of evidence for this, a tiny little bit. So, rewind 2 or 3 years ago, 2 years ago now, right? When they're at that Tempe council meeting, they're talking about that Tempe arena they want to build, and they did mention having other tenants. Well, we already know about the deal that ASU and the Coyotes did have in place, at least in principle, that would have had the basketball teams, the ASU men's and I do believe women's as well, basketball teams playing in that new arena. However, I speculated at the time, bring back the Sting. Or you can house the Rattlers, I guess, because, you know, I would like to have all my favorite teams in one arena, but put a pin in that one. Okay. It was mentioned that because they would not host a lacrosse team, was one of the reasons that it was said no to. That feels like a fan thing. It could be accurate. It could be a game of telephone. Like I said, this is all rumor. This is all 110% rumor. But apparently that is why the answer was no. And the ownership agreement would have been 51-49, I think, in the at the time current owner's favor, but that was a little murky, at least the way it was written, but that is what it allegedly would have been. The offer was rejected, and I was told that there was some anger out of the side of the individual that is in the downtown building, and that individual allegedly said that he was going to go out of his way to outbid on that June bid. So, remember we were hearing some rumblings that nobody wanted to bid against the Coyotes. They didn't want to be seen as running the Coyotes out of town. Then the Coyotes left, and apparently it was open season. Apparently, this would have been one of the individuals that was open season on it, and that right there ties a little bit into the anger that I was told about a couple of weeks ago that I didn't know what the case was. Like, I couldn't quite justify that one because I had no idea that conversations actually happened, because the way it was being reported and spoke about, and after the no vote in Tempe, Ishbia's people put out that statement where they were like, we're open to the discussion, and obviously Ishbia wasn't going to chase it. So again, I had no reason to believe that there would be actual bad blood, minus, wow, I don't like how you just gave up on the team and kicked him out of town. But anyway, so apparently that was a thing. Apparently. Then, the reason why I brought up Shane Doan and J.J. Watt is J.J. Watt obviously was not attached to this text message. However, it's publicly known that whether it was in jest or not, he is at least open to, or he's at least interested in trying to work with people to bring back the Coyotes. Again, what levels of seriousness you believe is up to your own interpretation. I think it's more so one of those, yeah, I'd like it to happen, and if it materializes, I'd like to be part of it, but not pushing for it. That's how I interpreted his comments on Twitter, but regardless, that's why I am mentioning JJ Watt here. Supposedly, Shane Doan has some friends in Western Canada that are big into oil. I refuse to look into that because I don't know where to begin looking. Alright, so keep all the allegedlys on there. And supposedly there's some interest in trying to bring the team back. And when I got to speak to Shane before the Coyotes left, you probably know about what happened, but if you don't, I'm not gonna bring it back up here. But when I got to meet Shane for the last time, before the team left in the last game, he did, after I handed him the thing, he looked at me, his face went from like excited to being sad, and he was like, they'll be back. They'll be back. And one thing that I was told pretty consistently by most people I was talking to at the time was when that 5-year window was announced, it was always a farce. The NHL never believed that that would ever happen, never believed that they'd actually reactivate the team, and it was a way to get rid of the previous owner. I am specifically going to go out of my way to not mention the previous owner's name, because at this point, I don't need, I don't, this is rumor. This is rumor. But one other tidbit that I am not 100% sure how I feel about this, because no one else has told me this. No one else that would be more in the know has told me this, so put a couple asterisks on this one. Supposedly buried into the contract with the league was that the now former owner would not be allowed to own more than 49%. Considering that the only things we do know publicly was the 5-year window, they have to give notice within by the 3.5 year mark, so they have, I think it's 1.5 years to reactivate. And that the previous owner could not bring on more than, I think it was 25%. Like, they couldn't sell more than that amount to the team to bring on additional capital, additional investors. So, maybe, I don't know. That one's a little murky. I'm not taking that one at face value. I'm not. But a lot of this seems to back up stuff I was hearing before about how the NHL really wanted to get rid of the previous owner, really had no faith that this deal was going to get done with this owner, and this was the cleanest, easiest break to get to that point, and kind of like how I talked about on JSN, where I was happy when the previous owner walked away, was because now the work can start now instead of in 5 years. I was also told that in some way, shape, or form, Ishbia and Bettman had met. Ishbia, which it did seem like, had met with the previous owner to put an offer together to keep the team here. That makes some deal of sense, all right? Past that, I'm not even going to speculate. That's a little too murky for my blood. My apologies. But I think that's mostly it. The Roadrunners are probably gone. We already pretty much knew that, so that was just another little... Here's a little thing. That was already reported that it's likely going to happen by PHNX. I trust that regardless. But, yeah, supposedly some things went down. Oh, Ryan Smith. So, someone I very much respect in this industry who reports on the news has been characterizing, while talking about the situation, Ryan Smith very similarly to how Gary Bettman characterized him in that final press conference where essentially, Gary Bettman, I think the exact quote was, he had to drink through a fire hose. It was essentially, he did everything to go out of his way to make this happen. Obviously, we had public comments as far back as at least January, as well as reports from the All-Star game that without the former owner in the room, allegedly he had put together an offer or said at least informally he would be willing to buy the team. But that person I respect characterized this individual as essentially it kind of fell into his lap and he just rose to the occasion type thing. I was also told that supposedly he was begged to take this deal because it is the quickest and easiest way to get rid of the previous owner and then obviously get a team back in Arizona. A lot of this is believable. My personal take on these rumors is there's a lot of believable bits. There's a lot of bits that do support each other, that the knowledge we know now, either through good reporting by PHNX or through tidbits that have come out since the relocation, support parts of it. However, these are also contingent on words that were said behind closed doors in which I was not there to hear with my own ears. So, again, one final time, rumor, take it with a grain of salt. I thought it'd be fun to discuss. But if there's truth to this, if this is even 30% true, I am so beyond enraged, and I don't look it, because one of the reasons why the relocation did not hit me as hard as I thought it would was because I have been fearing a relocation since 2008 or 2009, one of those two. Like, pretty much as soon as I became a fan. So for the last 18 years, if I was a baby when I became a fan, I am now old enough to die in a war. Okay, so, like, you dragged something for long enough, it didn't hit you as hard as you think. This is such a weird thing to talk about, because I'm so theoretically upset. I was already upset. I'm so theoretically upset at the potential likelihood that these events went down and the team could still be here. But then again, considering how it was reported via PHNX, there was an arena deal with ASU, not the one from 2016-2017, the one that the Coyotes had that press conference and ASU wasn't there for because ASU knew how bad of a deal that was. Not that one. It was a more recent one that was more than likely declined, similar to the potential to build on reserve land because of a lack of being able to own real estate and potentially due to that sports book. Allegedly, the previous owner says no for these various stupid reasons that the text we already have kind of supports. I don't know. It's either genuinely like this is mostly true. My personal opinion on this is that this is either mostly true or it was rumors that were spread by people who pay attention to the news. So it's like, oh yeah, this will support that, it'll support that, this will make sense. Like, that's how I interpret it. And frustration, because I would not be surprised. And there you go. I don't know how to end these videos anymore. If you'll excuse me, I'm gonna go redecorate my office and not think about this anymore.